Azula in the Spirit Temple was just released, and it gives us more insight into what goes on inside her head. And I think it's time to ask the age-old question, can Azula be redeemed? Let's take a closer look, shall we? I'm gonna be talking about some spoilers from the new comic, so watch at your own risk, but if you're still on the fence on whether or not you want to read this or not, then here's my big overlook on it. If you like looking into the psychological aspects of what goes on inside Azula's head, then this is definitely for you, but if that's not your cup of tea, then I'd skip it. When it comes to Azula, there is a lot to unpack here. Believe me, we've talked about her in great length in other videos. I'll link those in the description, but here's a little synopsis of the character. Azula has two sides. On one side of the coin, you have a blunt commander of the Fire Nation, a perfectionist who plots and schemes to get whatever she wants. She motivates and scares people onto getting on her level or moving out of her way. On the other side, she's just a socially awkward teenager who's loyal and constructive when giving advice. Granted, her straight way of thinking is normally not appreciated. Just like with her firebending, Azula is both warm and inviting and dangerous all in the same vein. She's a walking contradiction. No wonder the fan base is so split on how to perceive this girl, because not even she knows what's going on. The new comic highlights this very well, walking a fine line between the two sides of this debate. From this very short overlook on the character, the answer to this question is more than just yes or no. We can't just sit here and say that Azula is an innocent party here, painting her as a victim, because she isn't. She shot the Avatar down. Given the situation, I probably would have agreed with Azula on that one. Yes, shooting people full of lightning is bad. Do not do that. However, saving everyone from a power not even the Avatar could control at that moment in time quite possibly result in the potential demise of everyone within this cave. Does that make me a menace? Probably. But if we're gonna go into the worst thing Azula has ever done, it's probably bullying Ty Lee into joining her group again. Imposing your will on others in this fashion is not the way to go. Don't do this, ever. Also, if you have beef with your mother, don't try to destroy her, even if she doesn't remember you in any way, shape, or form. Azula isn't an innocent party here. She does a lot of unforgivable acts that she should be punished for. The comic goes into this, having images of her former friends tell her as much. That being said, becoming Fire Lord isn't the only thing that she wants. There is pain and heartbreak behind her eyes. Her backstory is just as tragic as Zuko, her mother's, or Iroh's. Nobody had fun within the walls of the Fire Nation Palace. Can we have a show about the Fire Nation royal family? It could be like House of Dragon, but with Avatar characters. Wouldn't that be fun? I'd totally watch that. In her past, Azula was left first by her mother, then by Zuko and Iroh. Also, Ty Lee was doing her old circus act, so she left, and then her parents were doing politics or something, so she wasn't around. Azula was left alone to do only one thing, which was train. Trapped with her power-hungry father, who only saw her as a weapon. The comic touches upon this as well, and with those two extremes, Azula pictures herself as a monster who cuts people out before they get too close to hurt her. She hides behind her sarcasm, but that doesn't mean she's heartless. She understands she's wronged people, and for that fact alone, Azula is a character that can be redeemed. With that being said, that doesn't mean she wants it. When we look at redemptions like Zuko, what guides him towards turning a new leaf is his mother and Iroh. Metaphorically, Iroh and Ursa are like Hansel and Gretel, laying out breadcrumbs for Zuko to follow. His past is what nudges him forward. He wants to prove to these important people that he is a better person. With Azula, that isn't the case. The past doesn't motivate her. She actively avoids it altogether. If you ever read the Witcher series books, I'm talking about the books, not the show, Yennefer Vangver kind of reacts in a similar way when she sees a flashback of her past. She literally just does not want to deal with it. Azula's kind of the same way. The past is painful. Does she wish things were different about the past? Absolutely. But getting in touch with the past isn't going to guide her forward like Zuko. It's only going to confuse and quite possibly force her to shut down. For the spirit in the temple to keep asking her what she wants, not not even she's aware of what that is. If Azula doesn't have a mission or a clear goal in mind, she becomes aimless, wandering around with no rhyme or reason, just as lost as the people in the Spirit Mist in The Legend of Korra. And this weird mental state is where she is in the comic. Her team and her are doing petty, disorganized crimes to get revenge on Zuko, just because. This isn't the same girl who orchestrated a coup to destroy Ba Sing Se from the inside out, or the same girl who planned the Fire Nation's defenses for the Day of Black Sun, or the girl that manipulated Zuko into becoming a Fire Lord like their father. Right now, she's the equivalent of a person in their 20s trying to figure out what they want to do in their life. Whoa, that got really deep for a second, I'm so sorry. She's lost, and her followers can see that. That's a big reason why they leave her alone. Again, alone to face her demons by herself. Okay, she's gonna actively avoid those demons like the plague, but you get the picture. Just like I alluded to before, the comic gets pretty psychological. We truly see how the inner mechanisms of her mind work. It's probably more intense and complex than that. That's more like it. The spirit in the temple wants to help Azula get what she wants in order for her to find peace and forgiveness. Azula isn't having any of that. Maybe it's because she's too arrogant to accept help, or maybe it's because Azula beats to her own drum. But my personal theory is Azula knows all of this isn't real. She even calls forth her own images of Mai and Ty Lee to counter the vision. She refuses to believe that any of this is real. And although the spirit is trying to guide Azula through her trauma, it's still manipulating her reality, guiding her through false images of the past. And with that, Azula finally learns what it's like to be on the other end of manipulation. Granted, she was being manipulated by her father for years before this, but love does blind the truth. Everything that the spirit shows her, a happy family, a mother who's proud of her, might be things that she desires, but she doesn't want the falseness or the easy way out. Azula must find her own way in life, and the only way to do that is to find answers first before accepting help from others. In the end, Azula does learn a lesson: how to let go and to leave on her own terms, leaving her previous group instead of forcing her leadership upon them once more. And that may be very subtle, but that's a big step for this character, because in the past we know that she probably would have gone back to that group and scared them into submission, but she doesn't. And whether that's because she still thinks she's a monster that doesn't deserve love or happiness, those are big questions that need to be asked in the future. Azula is still in denial of her traumas, but that does not mean that she still can't find enlightenment. I don't really see Azula going from master manipulator to Superman level goody two-shoes. Maybe we go from intense Fire Nation commander to neutral party, but that does not mean she's an unredeemable monster. Her arc to finding inner peace is going to be a lot different than her brothers, and that's okay. Azula is a person who keeps her cards close to her own chest. Dealing with deep personal emotional trauma isn't her strong suit. She would much rather avoid emotions altogether because in her eyes they're irrational. Being stuck in the past isn't going to stop the future from coming. For Azula, being the big picture visionary that she is, the future is bright, the past isn't. So at this moment in time, she isn't ready to face her demons. She may not ever be. And for Azula to find redemption, she needs to find something worth fighting for. Whether that's a group, an individual, a cause, whatever it is, right now, it's not connected to the past. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see Azula and Ursa work out their differences, or Toph and Azula being like the Muppet critics, but I don't really see this happening with this character right now. She needs to go out and live her own life, find new adventures with new faces, and in turn, they might actually help her find clarity and acceptance. And isn't that what all of us are looking for in life? That's just what I think. What's your opinion on Azula? Do you think she's an unredeemable monster, or do you think she's a lost soul trying to find a purpose? Let's chit chat about it in the comments down below. If you're intrigued by this character and you want to learn more about her, then I have a nice little video for you right over here. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.